People are leaving the room. It's because it's very cold. It's actually very cold. Yoshi, I need your jacket, please. Can I? I think you. No, will it fit? Oh. I'll ask for your brain as well, but then it will be late. Okay.
Oh, don't break it.
No? I think it doesn't fit. Huh?
Take it.
The Japanese must be very expensive.
No. Take it.
No, thank you. It's such a nice environment here. I feel home. I want to thank all the guys from the Sharjah Art Institute for inviting me second time. Every March I'm here. I'm very happy about that. So let's try to make some sense out of what I bring here to show. Sorry for my Latin English. I try to do my best accent. Yeah, some French stuff. Today we went to Louvre. Don't go Mondays, it's closed. We were with Yoshi there like 3 hours to get to Abu Dhabi and it was closed. Sorry, he said. So I wanted to start with French here. No, this is one preoccupation that we have. We means part of a collective, as Hoor was mentioning at the beginning, called Supersudaca, which has local bases in many places in Latin America. And we struggle with the possibility of being an architect that has certain level of relevance, at least have fun, and don't do just ugly buildings, as most of our colleagues do. And we're very happy, of course, none that are here, but we're very happy that architecture has been included and that we have like the last dance in this interesting meeting. Preoccupation starts with this thing of this social contract, this idea of how a society somehow has been organized since the Enlightenment by dealing with the individuality after trying to get some agreement of some certain level of government, which usually was the state. Then architects, we have normally been very comfortable with this system. We were portrayed by Gary Cooper. We were the symbol of modernity. We were doing beautiful buildings, very efficient. In Latin America, this is Caracas, in Venezuela, for instance. There is this idea where the government would take care of individuals by doing houses for the great masses that were our cities, were growing in our cities. And they just, sorry for the image, but they just were building and building and building. Architects, it was very clear what we were doing, how we were relevant to society. We were part of how to spatialize the common good. Architects were so popular, like in my country, in Peru, one even became president. He was cover of Time, the Latin American Architect of Hope. And he, of course, as a president in Peru, did the same thing we were always told to do, build houses, decently lit and well built. But things happened. And while we were building castles, then we ended up in a tsunami of houses, like was shown by Yoshi. In this case, individual houses. So we started to become irrelevant. And these kinds of city making, which it is in Lima in the 60s, which made it into the cover. First time a Peruvian architecture thing was in any cover of any international magazine was 1963. Nothing happened afterwards still. But then this social contract became, in the 1960s, 70s, in a crisis because states went into crisis. They all broke. They were all kind of dictators, completely stupid military guys, no idea what to do with society. And on the other hand, then contracts were not valid anymore. It was about informality. It was about just another kind of decision. People just dealt with themselves about the problems. So within this situation, people just found a place where to move. They just built as they could. In Lima, it never rained, so it's not an issue, never cold, never. So it was a very particular case where these things just grew. So these houses were very small, like the second one there, and then little by little, in a very flexible way, they started to become bigger and bigger and bigger. They were part of small shops, businesses. So a whole city like mine of 10 million people has been generated like that. So what, let's say, state only managed to do was, say, make some space called road, nothing else, but just a space called road. And then people go there, and let's say 2002, it was like this. 5 years later, people just managed to solve the issue of housing. Interestingly, leaving the spaces intended for collective for later, 5 years later. So in 10 years, the whole place has been all filled with houses, no collective spaces, not even a tree there because it never rains. But this idea turned out to be a whole metropolis. And this is Lima, but this could be Caracas, this could be Mumbai, this could be Nairobi. Many parts of the world has been developed like that, by this idea that the state is in a crisis, and then the individuals manage to do their thing. Then, after 70s, at least in Latin America, maybe it applies to many other places, in the 90s, then the state was considered something that it was useless, completely useless to solve any of the problems. So the social formality remained, and then contracts became profitable contracts, given to the replacement of states, which were private corporations, small, medium, big, whatever. Then the state just remained on a level of public realm regulator in the best of the cases. I don't have time to explain a very interesting research we did in the Caribbean within Supersudaca about how tourism, massive tourism through all-inclusive resorts and cruise ships has transformed those territories. But a picture from that research is very good to show what is this. So this is not houses anymore done by the state, it's resorts done for tourists, which are occupying the best places. And what the state does is only a highway, which is conveniently located so far from the beach that it's very hard for other people to get in there. So if you don't pay your whole ticket for the vacation, you cannot access the beach. And again, individuals, they always find a way. So people who work there, which were never considered, like the waiters and the clerkmen and the people who are cleaning the room, they start to do what they always do. They found the other side of the highway. So this kind of almost like a diagram of how things are now is what now is the space where, as an architect, we think we have to deal with. How to find tools by which this social contract that has been completely perverse manages to do some kind of relevance. That also means even security. This is in Lima, like a private urbanization. It's like almost like a cliche of third world with big houses with pool. On the other side, you see the small houses by the informal sector, and the government just is absent and doing the worst things, like making a wall to avoiding that people from one side go to the other side. So how can you become an architect there? How do you live in a city like that without suiciding or just changing career? So we have tried to understand things. Like this is a very interesting example. It won the Príncipe de Asturias, which is a very important prize in Spain, because it was like an example in the 1970s how a community could get together and with certain aid of the state, again, only just leaving empty spaces, not putting sewage, water, or electricity, those things that usually states should do. But then just generating, let's say, a pattern which in the future would generate a city. But even that, which was started as a common thing, individuality perverses it. And now we went with students, and all these red dots or blue dots are fences. So, and we're not talking about rich and poor here. We're talking about same, say, economical, social level. There's such this, what's the name of, distrust between one and the other that this becomes what the grid was. This open city is full of fences, because these guys think the other guys are going to steal them, or going to rape them, or going to whatever. That is always wrong. So the cities are becoming these paranoid spaces where each one solves the problem on their own because the state is gone, because there's no profitability on doing something about it, and individuals cannot do them together. So in a city where police has to tell with flowers in the highway that it should be respected clearly shows you this absolute crisis of a government. It says police should be respected. No, of course you say that when you are evidently not respected at all, and you don't say that in flowers. You know, you send flowers for another reason. So I want to show just very old examples I've not shown in a long time, but they're just amusing for this time of the day. And it's examples how we have tried to articulate this, how to find devices where design, or say design thinking, or that thing that we teach at schools, can be used. So with students, we went to find problems in the city, problems that we can solve on our own because we don't have the budget, we are not a state. So we found one case, which is a certain place in the city where 1 million people cross every day from one side to the other, and men, especially because we have been given this kind of adequacy of just peacing anywhere, they peace there against the wall at the entrance of a 1 million part of the city. So the government tried to, even with orthographic errors, to say it's forbidden to pissing, no pissing. And under says order of arrest. You know, so if you're caught there pissing, you're going to go to jail. Of course, there's not a single person in any Peruvian jail by pissing, but that's to the level where desperation and the kind of weakness of governments can reach. So we said, this is something maybe we could do. And then again, the social contract. So with the student, we said, okay, so the police, which tells you with flowers that we should be respected, tells you to arrest clearly, we have to find, so who should you respect? So clever guys, they went there, and so this is the proof that the people do that thing. The guy is pissing, if you don't see it from behind. Women cannot do that. I'm so sorry for you sometimes when you kind of reach this thing. Why am I talking this? This is a serious meeting. So they found out that there's only two characters, two powers that can tell you things and people will respect. One is Jesus, of course, this is a very Christian society, and the other is Sarita Colonia, which is not recognized by the saint, but she does do miracles. She's like an informal saint. So we thought, maybe if they tell you not to do, not the police. So what if we just simply, in the space, we make this, but it says, don't do it, I'm watching you, and it's just in case the formal being Jesus or the informal being Sarita Colonia. So we went to the government, to the municipality. The mayor looked at us like some of you, like completely, who the heck is this guy speaking now? So he said, you think with this you're going to solve this problem we haven't been able to do? So it's okay, whatever, just do it if you want. So we received some help from the municipality, Mr. Jorge over there. So he cleaned a bit, that's what the budget the municipality had. And we did it. We went to measure because we architects, we are trained to do that. So 1 meter was the height where we should kind of. And we put it there. And then it was very interesting because don't do it, I'm watching you. Reactions were incredible. Don't do it, I'm watching you. Then it's what? I'm not even pissing, but I did something bad and now I've been told. So it's like, yeah. Interesting enough, then certain merchants were disorganized around. They felt like protected because they had such power like behind. So then a small market assembled. And the most important thing, of course it's funny, but it's interesting. Can we revert the ways by which we work and find ways? So I'll show you another one, which was apparently even harder to solve. This is somewhere in the south of Lima, wherever, where there is, of course, a formal market. You could see the big infrastructure there. And, of course, there's an informal market outside in the street. So there, we decided we're going to solve this problem. This is an unsolvable problem, which normally is only solved by making some huge infrastructure thing, whatever, but that never works. It's always late. There's never money. So what you see there is it's like 4 blocks, which could take you either 2 hours or 5 days to cross, because everybody is on top of everybody. It's a complete mess. So we went with our students there and say, what is happening here? And it's the same with your grandma, when he's forgetting what he's telling you, because the arteries are starting to become kind of, I don't know the word in English, but you understand. And so fluids are not going as they should. So how to fix this thing? So we thought, what if we make a yellow line in the floor, in the pavement? We talk with the merchants. We tell them that for their own good, if they respect that yellow line, they don't cross, they will leave space for other people to come and see, and maybe see what they are actually selling, and maybe the cars will go further, and people will not be insulted themselves. So could we yellow line solve this thing? So we went there, and they said, yeah, okay, let's do it. Doesn't make any sense, but let's do it. So we bought a bucket of yellow paint. They bought it because it has to be a negotiation. It was a new social contract. We painted one night without any permission, but with the complicity of the merchants, and we made flyers. So it said, we are together doing this thing. And next day, it was like Switzerland. Amazingly, every merchant was just, nobody respects anything in Lima. If you have ever been there, red light means if you really think that you are not in a rush and you don't need to go fast, you should stop, you know. But this was incredibly working. And every single merchant was aligned perfectly there. Of course, there are some that they tried to go further, and the other people, because it was a new social contract, they said, you go back, you have your space. And if this woman was saying, he put it back. And incredible, a yellow line then suddenly made space. Then you could cross it in 15 minutes. The sellers were selling more. People were not having fight in the street. So a yellow line or some kind of thing in the wall telling you these things. Could we go further? So we had a very interesting opportunity because in Peru, there is a food revolution. I don't know if you're aware of it. There's a movement, almost quasi-political. It's completely ethical, where a series of very interesting cooks, chefs, they gathered together of many generations. They involved with the farmers, with the fishermen, with all the middlemen. So all the food chain is completely articulated, and it's the only thing that Peru is proud of. We are only proud about food. Now, finally, after 40 years, we qualified to the World Cup. So that's another thing we are now all happy. But this talk, like 6 months ago, would be only food. And we were part of it, and we were the architects of this group. So first, they didn't call us to do anything, and then they made a fair in a park. Huge fair, like 150,000 people at the same time in this place, and it was one of these places we have in Latin America where, for independence, centenary, every country sends us stuff. We don't know where to put it. We put them there, so all styles are there in this park. So the cooks at that time, they decided to, without architects, just do the thing. So they put all the pavilions, and it was a mess. It was a complete mess. Nobody saw anything. Food was great, but it was a mess. So then they said, next time we call architects. And they call us. So it was good. So we said, the problem you had is, again, the same. It's every of the pavilions which are there, they are all crying for attention. They are just simply put without any way. You know, we architects, what we do especially is that society has told these guys, architects, you help us organize space for us, in order to be happy, at least. So we said, like the yellow line, why don't we make one pavilion? Only one pavilion that is a line, like the yellow line, around the park, so now we can see the park. So people could be in the park eating where all of you guys are showing your products, your whatever you have to show there. So they said, it's great, it's actually the idea of our movement that we are all aligned, okay. But then one guy says, okay, but if we make one pavilion, how are they going to know it's me? And then again, individuality started to appear. So we reminded in the Petit Prince, when the snake eats the elephant and it looks like a hat. So I said, okay, let's make this kind of like a snake. So each pavilion, if you're the market, let's see like it would be a market, the bread guys, and all of them have a shape and a color. So with the color, it was an ephemeral thing, so with very cheap clothes. We just made this thing. So we made a pavilion 1 kilometer, 200 meters around the park that just shifted its shape and generated the most important thing is public space inside and people free to move around in the park. And so this pavilion was like the billboard, but also the place where you waited for the entrance. This is huge queues because everybody wants to go and eat there. And then it becomes the entrance, and then it becomes the market, and then famous chefs like Ferran Adrià, René Redzepi, they all go there, and then they're next to like the farmers and any guy who is there. So then the pavilion starts moving and changing shape and color, and this is the place where the breads are there, and this is the restaurant. So in the end, what was interesting, let's say power of design, if you want to say it in a way, by certain level of smart organization of things. That's what we architects did all our lives. Then some things could be created. And also what's nice is we discovered there the idea of chairs in public space, which of course in Paris is full of it, but in Peru chairs are things that are anti-vandalic. You cannot move them. They are terrible. Here, it could be like a Woodstock of food that happened there. So we created this huge envelope around what life could happen. And that takes us to another, and the last example before I finish with one project. Then sometimes, indeed, we are mixed with artists, being architects, and that's happened also in Lima. There's this La Nuit Blanche, the white night. It happened once in Lima. It never happened again, apparently. But that time they invited us. So they said, you have a space, do whatever. So we said, what if we play with ourselves? Don't take it wrong. Why do we play with ourselves in this idea that like Gary Cooper at the beginning in the Fountainhead, no? We architects design how behavior is going to happen. And then, of course, maybe it doesn't happen. So what if we just put chairs, movable chairs, in the space, and we organize them in a way that we could maybe define behavior? Maybe if we put the chairs like that, somebody's going to stand there and speak or play some song. If we put 2 chairs, maybe a couple will go there. If we make a group of chairs, maybe groups of people will go there and see what happens. And it was very interesting because the other thing is this is an open space. And when the organizer said, you're going to put chairs, like 400 chairs there, they're going to be stolen. They're going to be broken. You have no idea what people will do. We're talking about 50,000 people are going to walk in that area, and you're going to put chairs in Lima. You need guards. No guards. That's the idea of the experiment. I mean, that's, again, the idea of social contract. You treat people like citizens. They might behave as citizens. If you don't, for sure they won't. So we arrived there at 4 p.m., trying to play our architect role, like organizing very carefully all the things that would happen, like when we do our plans and we say, yeah, the entrance is going to be here, so somebody's going to get into the toilet, going to look at the mirror, and they're going to wash their hands. You know, we do that thing. And then it happened. So we architects rock. You know, we said there's going to be a group there, and it happened. Later, yes, we make rounds of chairs, and the same thing happened. But then surprise came. Then people started to play with the chairs. Then they started to make even nicer ways of arrangements. They started to make sculptures with the chairs. They just went around, and we thought, okay, at the end, of course, there's the drunk guys at 5 in the morning. Guys, you have to leave. We have to take the chairs. You know, what? Yeah, you know, these things happen. But the most interesting thing, first, of the flexibility that this gave to space, but not a single chair was stolen. Not a single one of 400 chairs was stolen. None was broken. And people had fun there. And now, can we rethink these ways? So this takes us to the last thing I have to talk. How many minutes? Are you already past? You're okay? I don't know if it's interesting, but you see that they put the heat is on. Huh? It's not cold anymore. That's one say we have in Latin America. If you don't cry, you're not going to have your milk. You know, so we did that. So this is an interesting project because this is actual formal project with a client and budget and responsibilities and lawyers and all those guys who are in the middle always. That we won a competition, international competition. I'm from Peru, but this is in Colombia. And it's a museum of modern art. And I want to show because Medellin is a very interesting example. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's a place where the government works, where the state is now kind of really going for the public good. They don't steal money. They are not in scandals of corruption like all the other countries of Latin America. We have in jail now 4 presidents. All the living presidents, dead presidents are not in jail because they are dead. All the living ex-presidents are in jail now, 4, including a Japanese. So they invited us to Colombia to do yeah, he's released, that's true. Because of a corruption deal of the current president not to go into jail. Okay, so they're one of these plans where industrial areas are turned into residential / commercial / mixed use / heart of the city. You know. So then part of the agreement there was that because it was an old steel factory, one of the workshops there was remained and then turned into the museum, and then they asked us to do an extension to it to put all what was missing. And they showed this is how it's going to look like, and we were like completely shocked by this horrible, terrible, ugly, inflexible scheme that some colleague has done somehow. So I said, what are we going to do there? But should we do something there? And then we realized that Norman Foster was invited there, that Alejandro Lavena was invited. All our guys we have the posters in the office of were also there, and we were there. So I said, let's do this thing. Interesting thing, later we realized the only guys who went there to see the site and talk to people were us. Like lesson 1, architecture school, go to see the site. Okay. Then you become famous, you don't go. Then you win, then you lose. Yeah. So the idea was to design the extension in this space behind the workshop and next to these beautiful residential complexes there to the right, and to do something there. And then we went out to see the city, which is what we do. Of course, Medellin is world famous, not because of our museum, but because of its starring appearance in a very well-known series called Narcos. And Medellin is synonym with Cartel of Medellin. So it is a place, and now being very serious, that suffered a lot. It was terrible to be there at that time, in the 90s and the 80s. But and that has generated a society totally introverted that has had a refuge in the shopping mall. These boxes where all life is inside and sucks all life outside in a beautiful city with incredible weather. Everybody was there. And so we went to see where's the people. They were all inside there. What's happening here? How can we go out of this thing? So we went to see the barrios, which is the other way, in the mountains. So all these people that individually has been growing their houses now has had an incredible operation where the government started to give infrastructure into this place, bring in the metro cable, so now you don't have to go all those stairs, but you just simply go up like you would be in Salzburg, and you go up there until to a stop, and then another stop. And in the middle, they worked with very interesting public spaces where you can have all these different squares, and you put 3 Colombianos in a place, and there's a party. So, or you put water, and the kids just go there, and life is articulated through those stairs. And then houses are flexible. You just add another and another, so your terrace is somebody else's roof. So that level of collectivity was completely... Solange, please, behave. Is non-existing on the plan that we were supposed to do. And on top of that, they have made these very beautiful buildings like libraries with parks, with the last Apple computer, so the best for the poorest, which was the motto of the foreign governor. So this was inspiring, not what we have seen in the shopping mall and in the scheme of the future city. So what to do there? So we thought maybe it would be interesting to have this kind of yin-yang, some kind of Dada situation, to bring the urinal to the museum. So if during the 2000s, the formal city has brought to the informal city structure, equipment, maybe what was required now in this kind of new social contract is that this flexibility, this vitality that you find here could come here on this strict place. So maybe instead of worrying like our competitors, or what's the best way to show art, maybe instead of doing a building, we did a village. We did something that recreated this, because it's not about romanticizing poverty, but there's also many values here that happen in terms of how to create this social contract. So what we did is we arranged all the different elements we have to do in a way that it was basically a cascade of public spaces. So without paying ticket, you can just maybe here play like hockey, go up and down the stairs, or you can keep on going up to a foyer, and then again, and to get to a terrace, and then again to another terrace, new different vantage points of the city. And we always imagine maybe this place would be the place where they take you and you know they're going to propose for marriage. It would be great to create that. And here they take you and it's the place where you're going to have a breakup. So you're going up and you say, will I go one more? Will I go one more? No, I stay here. Okay, love is gone. Things like that, which we're supposed, with architects, we think about those things. You know, then maybe don't happen. But in this case, it happened. And then use the shops and all these things that museums are every time having more of those commercial things. They're not bad if you put them in the first level, so you have this kind of passage there. So even if you just went for shopping, then you realize, oh, there's an interesting exhibition. Or if you went to break up with your girlfriend, oh, look at what interesting exhibition is happening here. So this kind of mix, this kind of openness that you find in these barrios in the mountains, that's what we did there. So after a long time, it finally was built, and we are very happy with it. And we're especially very happy because it's performing. It's been loved by the Medellin guys. It is an addition. It has no intention of be the same of the other. Has its own presence, its own logic. I'm not going to go into architecture, but generates these spaces where you just it's easier to walk there when it's raining than to go around. So once that you are there, so public buildings which are done with public money should really have public use. And then that's our task as architects to do that, not just to define what is the level of lumens we need in that space for a certain piece of art. So there's the entrance, everything is open, so then you have this kind of atriums, and then you go up in stairs like what's the name of the magician, the British boy? Harry Potter, you know. So we made this kind of Harry Potter experience where you go up and down. It's never clear if you're in or outside, because you can also, of course, go to see art, go in an elevator, pay your ticket, but you always have escapes to go on one place and another. So here, for instance, this is Fernando, one of my partners with his family. It's me with some of my children, and then my other partner. He paid the ticket. He wanted to see the show. My kids wanted to go eat something up there, and he doesn't know if to go to the one or to the other. So these kind of things then start to happen in an open space. Of course, you go there, and it's normal spaces which curators will take care of, and we just make the box. But then when maybe the exhibition was not that interesting, maybe you go out, hey, why don't we go to the terrace to see if somebody's breaking up with the girlfriend? And then this is the case of he's proposing. It happened. Now there's a place in Medellin where brides want to go to take the pictures. And that's another interesting thing. This is a space above, it's like a cathedral for poor people we made there. It's the last place, the last story. We wanted to recreate this kind of light going through very cheap cut metal there, and it's for event spaces. And of course, you have to be nice with the neighbors because they are living there. So all then are not roofs; they are terraces because they have a use. And then another final thing that we did, we know in Latin America especially, but most of the places now, nobody has any money. So when we needed to do a theater for movies, we thought, why don't we do like a reversible theater? So you spend once on the most expensive part of the theater, which is the stage with all the stuff. But if we manage to open this up, then this could also work this way for open things. And that was a tremendous good thing for the project, because one day you could be in a lecture like here, and then people are concentrated, but then also could be a band there, and people are not concentrated. But then, a certain day, you could open up those things, which was a complete nightmare to design, so the acoustics were good, and then this becomes a stage, and then the band could play to a wider audience, and then it could all be watching a movie which is never shown in the commercial cinemas because this is maybe an independent film and it's open air. And then now thousands of people go there every Friday instead of going to the shopping mall just to be there and to watch a movie and to feel part of this social contract where somehow we feel as architects we helped in a way by not doing this box curators initially wanted. Oh, this is full of curators, I'm sorry. And the nicest thing has been then later, since I don't live in that city, to find that through Instagram you just put a place and you see pictures taken in that place. And now this is my new hobby, a stalker of my own building. But then you find amazing things that happen, and it's showing you how people really like to go there to take pictures and play with the dogs and show the legs. And Colombian women are extremely beautiful, by the way. Okay, good. And that kind of things, which is life, and that idea of architecture staging life is exactly what I think should make interesting to be here. And thank you very much. Just to finish up, because I forgot that, and this is important, you hold the applause. I really like applause. It was really moving when then a friend of us sent us a picture where he says, look what's happening. The new mayor has decided not to take the oath to the city in the usual civic square, but decided to go to the new museum. And he has said in the speech that this museum represents the recovery of public space and culture in a city where narcos were taking all the space and everybody was afraid. And a very important writer from Colombia finally said the museum is the symbol of Medellin's new cartel. This time in Spanish it's about science, art, and literature. And that's something nice to hear about one of your projects. Thank you very much.
I know we went a little bit over time, but I think it was very interesting and important to see the role that architects play within the context of what we've been discussing for the last couple of days. I had a list of questions, but I would rather open the floor to the audience since we don't have that much time. So if there are any questions, please ask them now. No? Okay, I'll ask my questions. Okay, the question is for everybody. But first of all, thank you for the presentations. It was very interesting for people who don't know your practice to see the way in which you work and how the term architecture can be broader than just what you expect. So my first question is, how do you negotiate the various stakeholders and how they perceive the city and its role? I think you discussed a lot of that within your presentations, but how do you negotiate this and how can we move forward with that? How do you negotiate the various stakeholders? Yeah.
Yeah, I think now actually now the industry is the strongest stakeholder in Japan after 70 years of peace without any war and 20th century's economical growth after World War II, 60s, 70s was extremely powerful to change the structure of our society. And then until the 80s it was okay, but after 80s and then after 1995 it became more and more industrial. The society is totally organized around the industry. So it means I feel that now there is quite uneven relationship between different stakeholders. There's not so many stakeholders actually. So it's industry who take most of the stake. and who holds the most of the stake. And then I think people don't want to realize this, because we are part of the industry also. We are working for industry and earning money, getting salary from industry. So people don't want to realize that, but actually it's really terrible. And then I really see, for example, accessibility to the housing. Normally it sounds like, okay, accessibility to the housing for people. But the accessibility is also accessibility to the housing is also open to industry. And then now industry really take this accessibility, most of them, and then eliminate the network which has been developed by people in each places. It means culture. And so I think this is really a terrible moment of Japan. And but now our society is shrinking, so we can't really play with bonus of extra population, growing of the population. During the 20th century, our economy was very good because population increased, but now it's shrinking, it's decreasing. And then I think now it's time to realize that. But then the industry grew big, and then the problem of industry is they can't stop. Once they grew up, they can't shrink. It means die. So it means death. So they try to grow as much as possible until even today, although the population is shrinking. And then it's really produce extremely strange friction in our society. So I'm totally
pessimistic.
Yeah, pessimistic on this.
I think we're asking this question because also, as Mona showed and explained within the presentation, we're facing a similar thing here with our various stakeholders. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think to negotiate with stakeholders is first to try to define the question and what is at stake. And in my presentation, actually, the question where the question of history and the various ways, perspective that the various stakeholders had, the various views they had on history. And it's important because these various perspectives have an impact on public space, how public space is viewed, how it's used, how it can be transformed, and who has access to it and who doesn't have access to it. So I think it's in some cases negotiation is possible. In certain cases, that it's possible if the space for each stakeholder can have its vital space preserved, but in some cases it can be really difficult.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it would just remind me of the picture that I showed of the fountainhead, because that's the opposite, huh? The non-negotiator. You remember the scene where Howard Rourke is confronted, we want to change your building, and he says not, and then he goes and puts a bomb on it because he doesn't like how it ended up. And somehow we have that kind of stigma. Architects don't negotiate. It's too complicated. Doesn't want things to be changed. And I think now new generations are not like that. I think in terms of negotiation, you have to be like the perfect crime. You know, I always love that. Like these kind of movies when you never know who was the guy who made the thing. Or like, so how to do that? It's what we always try to do, because essentially everybody is nice and good. Even corporations, they have good intentions, or governments, they need votes, whatever. But so how to make them look through the eyes of your eyes. And architects, we are supposed to be good at that, because we can actually show the vision how this will look like. So optimistic.
So we have one optimist and one pessimist.
Houdini, you always kind of escape with all these things.
Are there still no questions? I'm surprised there are no questions for Manuel, yes.
Me?
Or phone numbers for Manuel, yes.
I mean, it's great seeing these projects and them being supported and they happen, but I mean, what about architects who just, you know, going for the highest bidder and creating space? And I'm talking about Dubai specifically, I guess, you know, where private is completely taking over public at an extremely rapid space. So there's public, you know, beaches or even parks and rules, you know, so don't sit, don't bring bikes, you can't, you know, like, so even these spaces where it's meant to be, you know, places to relax. And so my question is, and accessibility, I think, so the key word here is accessibility, and how to fight that if it's, you know, if it's the city, if it's government sanctioned, and architects who come in and make and design spaces with no intention really to improve the quality of life for people around, so regardless of class or, you know, which part of the city. And it's just, yeah, as an individual, you know, it's just how does one cope with that? And I don't know. I mean, I'm just like airing probably frustrations.
Move.
Move to Sharjah.
For example. No, as a disclaimer, I think as architects, we kind of agree that Dubai must be one of our most recent biggest embarrassments as a profession. I think engineers did their job, market guys did their job, economists did their job, lawyers might have done their job, architects haven't. There are some, we have known now some interesting exemptions, and hopefully there will be a kind of counter movement to that. You cannot be driving all day thinking about, oh, rush hour, don't go to, where we go, to the Louvre Museum because it's closed on Monday, and have like 3 hours. So it will somehow balance, but yeah, I am not entitled to talk about this place.
For me, I don't know how I totally understand the question, but I think in the discourses of space or architectural discussion, I think the division between public and private is no longer relevant. And because it's the most of the discussion happens between public and private, but I think this is no more relevant. It's public, private, but there is a division in this way in the industrial society and people's skills and knowledge and etc. It's commons. So commons versus market or commons versus industry is actually more relevant contrast in developing for developing the architectural discourses and discussions. And so I think we should really put so many words and so many concepts which were relevant during 20th century into the garbage, into the bin box, garbage bin. And we should really renew the word. Yeah.
I want to say something. I think education, architecture education, has a lot to do. I mean, a lot of the problem also comes from that. It's the architecture schools are somehow disconnected from the context they're living in, and I think also this encouraging the student to do research, to do field research, to be immersed in the cities they live in, to understand in depth, you know, the culture of the places that they live in, maybe could help them when they sort of start working to look for different kind of practices, and a concentration of these practices could perhaps start, you know, changing the landscape to a certain degree. I mean, it will always be tactical. It cannot be strategic because, you know, of this economical system. But at least to take that margin that is available, and I think, you know, in the way the three of us talked, it's in that margin that we are situating ourselves.
We don't have any more time. Thank you all for your time this week, these last few days. The program goes on till late tonight. At 7 o'clock, we've got a presentation by Neo Myanga at the same courtyard where we had the performance last night, followed by the performance at 9 p.m. So I encourage you to walk over, and thank you again for joining us and being here.